Watch this.
Which way will Idaho voters go? With the primary election less than 24 hours out, we're taking a look at statewide offices on the ballot and the big positions up for grabs. No matter the outcome, the legislature will look different next year. But how different? We'll explain. Its name doesn't exactly sound like it's spelled, so where did it come from? And more importantly, how do you say it? Well, folks, you made it. After much anticipation, tomorrow is primary election day in Idaho. After hours of political ads and dramatic party politics and a couple of high-stakes legislative sessions, tomorrow we will get a look at the future leadership of our state. On a statewide level, there are 5 primary races that all Idahoans will vote on: Superintendent of Public Instruction, Attorney General, Secretary of State, Lieutenant Governor, and Governor of the state of Idaho. Now, the truth in Idaho is that Republicans traditionally have a very strong voting majority. So it is fair to say that there is a strong chance that the winner of the GOP primaries tomorrow will have a shot at winning in November. So with all of that in mind, tomorrow's races are crucial. And we wanted to give you, the voters at home, some expert analysis on the races ahead of Election Day. So earlier today, I talked through the races with Boise State Professor of Political Science, Dr. Stephanie Witt. And Dr. Witt's an expert on public policy and politics and history here in the state of Idaho. So let's go race by race on the GOP side. We'll circle back to the Dems in just a moment. But back to the GOP for now. Let's start with Superintendent of Public Instruction. Leading the pack, incumbent Sherry Ibarra, challenger Debbie Critchfield, and challenger Brandon Durst. Dr. Witt says there are 2 very different sides to this race.
Ibarra is the incumbent. She probably has name recognition with many voters because of that. This will be her 3rd time standing for election with this race. Critchfield has a lot of valuable experience with the State Board of Education, but it's unclear to me to lay out succinctly, here's the difference between this candidate and that candidate. Now, there's a world of difference between those 2 and Brandon Durst, who is really a proponent of the kinds of things that would potentially dismantle the public education system. It is usually headed under parent choice. So there's a clear difference between Durst and Ibarra and Critchfield, but between Ibarra and Critchfield, I'm not sure what the big difference is.
Over to the GOP race for Secretary of State. We watched here on KTVB that kind of play out during our debate. Now, current Secretary of State Lawrence Denny is not seeking re-election, so we will have a new face come November, guaranteed in that office. Now, the top candidates on the GOP side include current Ada County Clerk Phil McGrain, Senator Mary Souza, and Representative Dorothy Moon. Moon and Souza have significant legislative and election experience, while McGrain currently runs elections for the largest county in the state and has for the last several years. Dr. Witt says similar candidates in Moon and Souza may create an interesting dynamic in the voting.
Part of the party that is concerned about election integrity and doesn't believe that Joe Biden won the 2020 election, and that would be Representative Moon and Senator Souza believe that. Phil McGrain's gone on record that he believes Joe Biden won the election. So now McGrain is the person who knows the technicalities of being the Secretary of State. I think prior to the 2020 presidential election, most people had no idea what secretaries of state did. They are in charge of all that technical stuff about running the elections on a annual or biannual basis. And so McGrain is clearly the person who knows how to do that. If the party split between the 2 people who don't believe that Trump lost, and it may open up a way for McGrain to sneak in there and win.
In the Republican race for Attorney General, incumbent Lawrence Wasden faces challengers Raul Labrador and Art McAmmer. Dr. Witt says that this race will likely come down to name recognition and the candidates' views on what the role of the Attorney General should be in Idaho.
This is really about the philosophy behind the office. Is this office a law and order, yes, no, constitutional read that advises the legislature and the agencies? Or is this agency or this office a bully pulpit to make your points about policy issues? And I think what Labrador and McAmmer are saying is we want to make it more of a political speaking point, right? They want to go after those cultural issues and use the office to file lots more lawsuits against the federal government or other agencies. And Wasden has a much more constrained and limited view of the office that really is more in line with how the office has traditionally been operated.
Over to the lieutenant governor's race with Lieutenant Governor McGeehan running for governor. We are guaranteed a new lieutenant governor come November. GOP frontrunners House Speaker Scott Bedke and State Representative Priscilla Giddings are expected to be the top two in that race. Dr. Witt says that the lieutenant governor's race on the GOP side is a microcosm of the 2022 primary in Idaho. Established and traditional GOP candidates versus Republicans looking to take the party in a different direction.
Bedke really represents that traditional Main Street form of Republican, fiscal conservative, interested in the bread and butter kinds of issues. Giddings plays more to that further right wing of the party. She's a volatile character, you know. I mean, there's been a lot of polarizing news about her troubles with the ethics committee in the legislature, for example. She is running more of a grassroots campaign than Bedke. Bedke has more money. She has raised a significant amount, but it's almost all from individual donors. So they represent really different styles. And Bedke is flooding the airwaves with advertisements. And so he appears to be choosing that traditional way of reaching out to the voters more than Giddings has, at least yet.
The Republican race for Idaho governor comes down to really three candidates: the incumbent, current Governor Brad Little, current Lieutenant Governor Janice McGeehan, and relative newcomer Ed Humphreys. Now, Dr. Witt says, thinking back to the pretty competitive 2018 primary between Little, Raul Labrador, and Tommy Ahlquist, this is a much different race now with Little running as the incumbent.
This appears to be in the home stretch here. To be Little's race, that he's pulled ahead. He's way ahead on fundraising. He appears to be polling, just that I'm hearing through the grapevine, very well. So I would be surprised if it's close at all. Humphreys has spent a lot of money on advertisements, and he is well known in parts of the Treasure Valley, especially the Eagle area where he's from and where he works with a lot of his clients in finance. But I really would expect that Little will win this without any trouble. But that's why we have the election, to see who wins, right? You don't know until you vote, so we won't know until we add them up.
Okay, so what about the Democrats this primary election? Again, a lot of these uncontested or uncompetitive races, we can tell you this. For governor, there is only one name that will show up on your ballot for Democrats. That's Stephen Haidt. However, current Standpoint Mayor Shelby Rongstad is running a write-in campaign. Lieutenant Governor candidate Democrat Terry Pickens Manweiler is on the ballot there. Secretary of State candidate Sean Keenan has no challenger. Attorney General candidate Steve Scanlon and Superintendent of Public Instruction Terry Gilbert. They are all running uncontested and will automatically make it to the November ballot. So there you go. And you can track all the races and the parties right now in our voter guide. It's very helpful right now, ktvb.com. So no matter the outcome of tomorrow's elections, there will be several new Idaho lawmakers in the Capitol come next January. At least 32 guaranteed, meaning at least about 30% of the lawmakers will either be new or in a new position starting with the 2023 legislative session. And that number likely to go up should an incumbent lose in the primary or general election. Right now, there are two districts that will have all new representation, both thanks to retirements and new district boundaries. Now, District 12 in Nampa, currently Senator Todd Lakey is running for election in District 23. Current State Representative Ben Adams, a Republican, is facing Thomas Netzley for that spot. And both representative seats have new faces. Current Representative Bruce Skog is now serving District 11, and Rick Youngblood, who served for 5 terms, is not running for re-election. And in District 21 in Meridian and Boise, current 2-term Senator Regina Bayer is not seeking re-election. Current Representative Stephen Harris announced his retirement back in March. The district's other representative, Greg Furch, is running in District 22. And of Idaho's 35 districts, 20 will have at least one new face. Remember way back in the beginning of 2020, even before the pandemic, the United States Bureau started its every 10-year process of counting every person in the country. as the census. Now, for obvious reasons, it took a little bit longer to complete than normal, but it all got done, and a lot of legislative lines were moved because of it. Why? Well, because under Idaho law, each legislative district must have about the same number of people so that each representative is given the same opportunity. So, with Idaho's population officially updated, districts, they needed to be updated too, hence redistricting. And while some districts change very little, some change a lot. And there are several races where incumbents will face their current coworkers. That includes 2 different races in District 9, which now include parts of Canyon County, Payette County, and Washington County. The first race between Senator Abby Lee of Fruitland and Senator Jim Rice of Caldwell. Rice, who was in District 10, is now running in 9. He is seeking his 7th term in office, while Lee seeking her 5th term. 2 other Republicans, Kayla Dunn and Jordan Marquez, are also running in that same race. Also in District 9, Representative Judy Boyle of Midvale will face off against colleague Scott Syme, a representative from Caldwell. Syme, who just finished his 3rd term, had his district changed from 11 to 9. Representative Boyle, who just finished her 7th term in the House, is the current incumbent in District 9. Finally, in District 14, which now includes all of Gem County and parts of Eagle and Ada County. Previously, Gem County was part of District 8, along with parts of Valley, Boise, Lemhi, and Custer counties. 3-term Senator Scott Grow of Eagle, who currently holds the District 14 seat, will be challenged by District 8's Stephen Thane, a 5-term senator from Emmett. Because Emmett was moved to District 14, the 2 incumbents will now face off. Now, redistricting also has another effect on voters: polling places. Where do you go vote? So before you head to the polls tomorrow, make sure that you double check that you know where your polling place is, because there's a good chance it may have changed. So just make sure you check in on that. Changing topics for you, a quick update to a story that we've been following since last week. We told you that the Idaho Republican Party filed a lawsuit against the Bonneville County Republican Party Central Committee for violating election laws and party rules. They say the Bonneville County GOP distributed these flyers that listed endorsements of the, quote, official Republican Party. They added that the flyers are deceiving and go against the party's policy of staying neutral in contested primary races. Late Friday, the judge in that case ruled in favor of the state GOP party. That order means that the Bonneville County Republican Party Central Committee cannot endorse any candidate in contested races other than those for county-level offices. It also says that they cannot distribute printed materials, including mailers, social media posts, and advertisements of any kind. Those flyers that we just showed you were taken down from the group's official Facebook page shortly after that judge ruled. This Idaho town's original given name was Stewart, named after one of its first inhabitants. But years later, they found a better name, thanks to the railroad company that came to town. So, how exactly do you say it? We love sharing pieces of Idaho history here on the 208, so if you have an idea for a story that we should look into here, make sure to tell us about it. We really want to make it easy to join the 208 conversation, so here's what you got to do. Just text the number on your screen, 208-321-5614. Make sure you are including your name and hashtag the 208 before hitting send. And a warning, we may share your message live on air at the end of the show, so stay tuned. We'll get there soon. There's a city in Idaho's Panhandle on the southern edge of Nez Perce Reservation, smack at the confluence of two rivers. That is known as the gateway to Idaho's wilderness. The state's second largest national forest is just to the east, and if the city was known as just that, the gateway to the wilderness, it would certainly be a mouthful. But its real name might be more than a mouth can handle on its own. So we called in an order to the Farm Table restaurant in a town that was first established back in 1895, but wasn't always known as what it was called today. What's it called? Well, that's a question that Brian Holmes asked for today's How Do You Say It?
We are literally right at the South Fork of the Clearwater River. It's just a little town with one grocery store and no stoplights. So you're just right here on Highway 13 and making your way through.
And as you make your way through, you'll likely see this sign with this name.
The town's name is spelled Kooskia.
That's right. Kooskia, Idaho.
Not Kooskia.
Not Kooskaya, not Kooskia, Kooskia. Kooskia, Idaho.
A name used by the native Nez Perce.
They used to call it Kooskaya, was the name for the Clearwater River.
A name also known by Lewis and Clark's Corps of Discovery and noted by Sergeant John Ordway, who wrote on June 1st, 1806, "Towards evening we came down the river hills to a large village above the forks on the Kooskia River." About a century later, this village was known as another.
The original name for the town was Stewart back in the day, but they already had a train stop named Stewart in Idaho, so they went with Kooskia.
A contraction, if you will, of the original word, but one that leads to a singular curiosity for Stacy's casual customers.
You know, I work in a restaurant here in town, and so we get a lot of travelers coming through. So those questions get asked here and there, and I just so happened to have picked it up along the way.
And so when they ask you, you tell them.
Yeah, I tell them, put it right through. We can even be bought off for a bribe for people who are trying to decide if it's Kooskia or Kooskia. We've done that before over pie, so that'll work.
Whatever leads to a better tip.
Whatever, that's right.
It's kind of like that Boise versus Boise kind of distinction, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, Boise is the right way to go that way, and Kooskia is the right way to say this one.
All right, so there you go. The gateway to Idaho's wilderness boasts access to fishing and hunting and all kinds of outdoor activities year-round. It is still a big timber town, too. Every summer, they have Kooskia days, and they usually involve some sort of logging show. Stacy, who is from Boise, by the way, says to stop by Purdy's Farm Table restaurant if you're ever headed up their way. Highway 13.
With 85 for a high yesterday in Boise, it was the warmest day of the year so far and the warmest that Boise has seen in 223 days. It was the beginning of October when temperatures were into the 80s. So it's cooler today in comparison to yesterday, but still a nice warm or pleasantly warm day for us. 77, our high so far today in Boise. It dipped down to 74, but we're right back up to 77 now. Made it up to 83 earlier in the Ontario area. We see the clouds that are bubbling up, moving in from the southwest, and I'm watching a cluster of showers that are kind of gaining some steam here as they're trekking to the northeast. So Glens Ferry, Mountain Home, into Fairfield, into Gooding, a potential that you get an isolated thunderstorm or a quick shower moving through. A little more active weather in southern Twin Falls County, moving up toward the Burley and Rupert area. So keep that in mind for the rest of this evening. For the Boise area, we stay dry, mostly cloudy and mild through the rest of this evening. So have at that picnic in the backyard. Tomorrow, lots of sunshine in store for us and a touch cooler than today, but still spring 70s on the board to enjoy and a light breeze. Winds will pick up in intensity on Wednesday ahead of some changes in place as we get some cooler air that drops in for the end of the week before temperatures rebound closer to seasonal averages into next weekend.
It's been a 15-year grassroots effort to repurpose a worn-down North End Cathedral into a center for learning and the arts. And this morning, students, community members, and others were on hand as they officially opened the Treasure Valley Institute for Children's Arts, also known as TRICA. Actually, make that 15 years in 1 week. They're actually supposed to hold the ribbon cutting last Monday, but Mother Nature's unexpected mid-May snowstorm put a little damper on those plans. So today, they went ahead and they held it in the beautiful sunshine that Bree was just talking about. And TRICA is the brainchild of Boise's John Swarthout. Last week, we told you about his decades-long journey to turn his education arts summer programs, TRICA, into a school for the arts. And the original building in Hyde Park, built in 1907, was once listed as one of the most threatened, endangered sites in Idaho. Because after the church was no longer a church, it became housing and eventually home to drug dealers. But John saw the beauty and potential, and he bought the building in 2007. 15 years and more than $7.5 million later, the former church is now officially home to TRICA. And this morning, Pulitzer Prize winner Anthony Doerr was actually on hand to officially welcome the school to the community. A great day out at TRICA. The kids dance in their perfect new routine. The school, which is a nonprofit, is open for students aged 2 to 12, and they are currently registering for their summer arts and performance camps in its preschool of the arts right now. So you can take a look at that online, TRICA, if you're interested. Okay. All right, folks, we get this question a lot, so we will tell you this info. You can find the 208 on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and on Gmail. That's right. You can send us an email anytime. We love to chat with you guys, so please follow us on your favorite places there. Let's get, though, to the viewer favorite part of the show. Let's get to some comments here for you. We got a couple ones we're going to get through here. This one says, can I register as a Republican at my polling place tomorrow? If you have not registered in the state of Idaho or you're an unaffiliated voter, you can affiliate as a Republican tomorrow at the polls. When you get there, just talk to a poll worker. They'll have the info and they'll be able to help you out. This person says, Representative Vander Wouda is running against Representative Firtz in District 22. Both are incumbents. That's correct. You can add that to our list that we were profiling as part of our election preview here today. This person says, after the primary, when do the political signs have to be removed? That's from Jeff. Thanks, Jeff. Long story short, Jeff, it's not exactly defined in state code, but really the days after the election, you'll start to see them coming down. There are groups like ACHD and ITD that'll start to take things away too. If they're in the way, if they've become trash, they'll start cleaning them up. But the candidates and the people that put them up are encouraged to go clean up after their own mess. So please go do that. And this person says, Joe, you're great. Thank you, I know. But where has Brian been? And you know what? I'll tell you this. Brian took today to charge up, take a little nap, eat some protein, maybe do some push-ups, because he will be back tomorrow, as will all of us, for Election Day 2022. So join us all day tomorrow here on 7. We will take you right up to the results late tomorrow. For now, though, we'll step aside. We will see you tomorrow with a big smile on our faces. Remember, it's Election Day. Get out there and vote. See you tomorrow.